Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day to attend what is the first webinar in a series of 3 called Okay, Now What?, where we help to shed some light on how to move forward with growing your practice after all that we've been through and, quite honestly, all that we're still going through. iVet360 wants to help you tackle your problems and questions about veterinary staffing, finances, and digital marketing. I'm Tamisha Cronick. I'm one of the HR and training managers at iVet360. I bring with me 20 years of experience in the veterinary industry, working alongside you all as a client service rep, a veterinary assistant, and a practice manager. I'm also a certified professional through the Society of Human Resource Management. Some quick housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded and may be available later through iVet360. All attendees are muted during the webinar, and to ask any questions, please use the question function in the webinar toolbox. I am joined today by my wonderful colleague, Laura Alarcon, who is another HR and training manager at iVet360. She will be answering the questions that come up in that question box today. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we are talking about shortages of veterinary technicians and veterinarians that have only gotten worse since the pandemic has started. With seemingly no end in sight of the staffing shortages, how do you all retain valuable employees and attract new talent? So today we will discuss how we got to our current state, ways to help retain employees, and how to become a great place to work so that you can attract talent. So how did we get here? The US is one of 13 super-aged countries, which include Japan, the US, and many other European countries, in which 1 in 5 of the population is 65 or older. There was a demographic dividend experienced in the West when the highly educated baby boom generation entered the workforce that happened in the 70s and 80s. That generation represented a demographic bulge that has left or is preparing to leave the workforce, creating a corresponding demographic deficit of experienced, highly trained workers. Studies by veterinary economist Dr. Jim Lloyd points to a growing shortage of veterinarians in the range of 3,000 to 5,000. The US Bureau of Labor Statistics confirms this number and predicts the problem will get worse as we move forward. What we are seeing with both large and small practices throughout the US is consistent with these findings, and it's pretty alarming. It seems that every small animal clinic needs help. As baby boomer veterinarians retire, and we're approaching a 2,000 a year pace with that, the shortage grows. The same challenges are present for veterinary technicians. Since 1978, the US has added only 5 new veterinary schools, with 1 more on the way. But to compound this, veterinary class sizes have remained fairly stagnant. Comparing that to the growth we're seeing in our pet populations, that expansion from 27 schools to up to about 33 schools doesn't keep pace. This difference is heightened when you compare it to the expansion of human medical, nurse practitioner, and physician assistant programs. As for our veterinary technicians, they are leaving the profession in worrying numbers. The reason they're choosing to leave include compensation, burnout, and lack of recognition of their training and certified skills. According to a recent article done by CNN, 35% of all vet techs eventually burn out, with half of them leaving the profession within 5 years. Inadequate pay remains one of the top reasons vet techs leave the profession. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, veterinary technicians are paid on average about $36,000 a year, which is close to the poverty level in some parts of the country. This figure can be as much as half the starting salary of a registered nurse in human medicine. In addition to being underpaid, vet techs are also underutilized. Some reports share that at least half of the vet techs' learned skills are often ignored, leading to decreased morale and inefficiencies. The working dynamics between vet techs and veterinarians are often less delegated and collaborative than those in human hospitals. We are also working with a new generation of pet owners. Millennials and Gen Zers are adopting pets at higher rates than their predecessors. Looking at pre-pandemic and early pandemic figures from the AVMA shows that pet owners went up in 2020 compared to in 2016. While an increase in pet ownership is generally a good thing, it also means that veterinarians and vet techs have to see more patients and field more calls from pet owners, which sometimes results in delayed visits and care. And this was all before the pandemic. When March 2020 hit, practices quickly adapted with new COVID safety protocols in order to continue providing patient care in a way that was safe for the community. But these same changes also limited team efficiency and productivity. Transitioning to curbside care, splitting staff members into rotating teams, and increased sanitization measures are just a few of the changes that have impacted how practices delivered veterinary services. These COVID-19 infection control procedures have slowed the ability of veterinarians and their teams to handle caseloads. And in a field that has long relied on direct in-person care, it has caused extended wait times on top of the added influx of pets. The irregular flow of patients and clients from the height of the pandemic to now, combined with the disruption of COVID-19 to practice operations, which include declining productivity and higher turnover, are causing many team members to feel overworked and overstretched. It's no wonder that veterinary care teams are burnt out. Regarding the impact of the pandemic, 81% of staff said their practice was shorthanded at times. Furthermore, 63% of staff said their job increased their exposure to COVID-19, and 51% of staff members said they worked longer hours than they usually would have. Many veterinarians or technicians decided to accelerate their retirement due to the stresses of the pandemic. Women have continued to bear the brunt of pandemic job losses. According to an analysis by the Census Bureau, as the pandemic erupted in the spring of 2020, roughly 3.5 million mothers with school-aged children either lost jobs, took leaves of absence, or left the labor market altogether. Those who have stayed want a better balance between work and family, and are not willing to work the hours that many of our veterinary predecessors worked. Keep in mind that this is not just a trend, but a direction that all employees, male, female, with or without family, are heading when it comes to recognizing the importance of work-life balance. In addition to the general staffing shortage that we're experiencing prior to the pandemic, we're now faced with employees dealing with quarantines and isolation, sick days, and of course, childcare challenges. High turnover also hurts productivity and efficiency. Employee turnover and attrition remain high in veterinary medicine, especially when compared to other healthcare professions. The average turnover for veterinarians is twice as high as it is for physicians in the human field, and veterinary technicians have one of the highest turnover of all healthcare positions. All of this has resulted in an increase in client wait times. Interestingly, according to national data compiled by the AVMA, the number of veterinary visits in the US has actually remained about the same in 2020 as compared with 2019. That number has remained about the same not because fewer people are trying to see their veterinarians, rather, it's because there aren't enough veterinarians to meet client demand. The direct and compounded damage from a shortage of veterinarians and technicians is pretty profound. We are dealing with staff burnout, service delays, the potential effect of quality of care, and limitations on access to care. So, what do we do? An initial reaction might be to hire more people. In reality, improving team productivity, employee engagement, opportunities for development, and employee longevity are far more productive or effective approaches. It's better to be proactive than reactive. So before we talk about recruiting, we must ensure we have a plan for retention. If we want a successful remedy, we need to address root causes. Studies have shown that employees typically follow 4 primary paths to turnover, each of which has its own different set of implications for any company. Those 4 paths are dissatisfaction, looking for better alternatives, having planned changes, or having a negative experience. So employee dissatisfaction. You're going to attack this issue with traditional retention strategies, such as monitoring workplace attitudes and addressing the drivers of turnover. To monitor workplace attitudes, you can conduct one-on-ones, hold exit interviews, and encourage and ask for feedback from your teams. Better alternatives. You can help retain employees by ensuring that your company is competitive in terms of rewards offered, such as pay and benefits. You can provide developmental opportunities, which would encourage your team to continue to learn new skills and knowledge. This helps you and helps them. And then be prepared to deal with external offers for valued employees. Be prepared to ask them questions to get at the root of what they're looking for in an employer, and hopefully you can provide that. Planned changes. Some employees have a predetermined plan to quit. Maybe they or their spouse becomes pregnant, they get an advancement opportunity, or they're continuing their educational pursuits. However, increasing rewards that are tied to tenure or in response to employee needs may alter the plans for some employees. For example, if a company is seeing exits based on family-related plans, maybe a more generous parental leave and family-friendly policies might help reduce that impact. Negative experiences. Employees sometimes leave on impulse without any plan for the future. Generally, this is the result of a negative response to a specific action. Maybe they were passed over for a promotion, or they're experiencing difficulties with a supervisor. You'll want to analyze the types and frequencies of work-related issues that are driving your employees to leave. Provide training to minimize common or frequent negative interactions, and provide support to deal with those problems, such as conflict resolution procedures, alternative work schedules, or employee assistance programs. All right. Okay. So managing for employee retention involves strategic actions to keep employees motivated and focused so they choose to remain employed and fully productive. It is more efficient to retain a quality employee than to recruit, train, and orient a replacement employee of the same quality. According to SHRM's Employee Job Satisfaction and Engagement Research Report, employees identified these 5 factors as the leading contributors to job satisfaction. They're respectful treatment of all employees, compensation and pay, trust between employees and management, job security, and having opportunities to use their skills and abilities at work. So that brings us to this question: what can you do now? Effective practices in a number of areas can be especially powerful in enabling a company to achieve its retention goals. These areas include recruiting practices, onboarding or socialization, training, development, and skills utilization, compensation and rewards, leadership, and employee engagement. So before I talk about recruiting practices, I wanted to give a quick little plug for our recruiting toolkit. If you haven't checked it out already, I highly, highly recommend you do so. You can find all sorts of useful information and resources there, including a want ad generator, interview questions, advice on sign-on bonuses and wages, and there are graphics that you can use if you are hiring, and a job offer template. So jot down that website and be sure to check it out. So going on to recruiting. Recruitment practices can strongly influence turnover, and considerable research shows that presenting applicants with a realistic job preview during the recruitment process has a positive effect on retention of those new hires. So are we utilizing all of our resources to ensure that candidates are quality candidates? Are we doing background checks, reference checks? Are we performing an effective and thorough interview with behavioral interview questions and observation time so that they can see what the practice is like? And are we utilizing multiple decision makers to meet the candidates? Are we hiring candidates based on their competencies and ability to be a good cultural fit with our practice? So we know that we need employees who can work in fast-paced situations. We want them to be able to multitask. We want them to be able to handle emotional clients and coworkers and work with peers that are under stress. We need employees that can work in situations that are ambiguous, where there are multiple ways to approach a medical problem. We need employees who are self-motivated and can stay busy without a lot of direction. So are you asking questions in your interview that provide insight into whether your candidates possess those competencies? And lastly, are we recruiting for the best candidates that we can? Does your job offer and benefits package reflect your need and desire to hire quality candidates? Socialization or onboarding. Turnover is often high among new employees. Strategic onboarding and assimilation programs can help new hires become embedded in the company and thus be more likely to stay. These practices include shared and individualized tailored learning experiences, formal and informal activities that can help people get to know one another, such as lunches or job shadowing other departments, and the assignment of more seasoned employees as role models for new hires. So what does onboarding look like for your new hires? Are they given adequate time to learn the skills needed to be successful, or do we throw them in the deep end of the pool? Are they supported with frequent check-ins by their supervisors and managers? Do they have a peer mentor that they can go to with questions and problems. Are we doing all we can to set them up for success? Or did we just waste the opportunity to truly invest in them? And are we treating our new employees with respect and understanding? They are new. They will make some mistakes, and they will learn, and they will develop skills as they continue in their jobs. Training and development. If employees are not given opportunities to continually update their skills, they are more inclined to leave. Additionally, we want our credentialed technicians utilizing the skills that they've become certified in. A focus on training and development will help to improve team productivity. When efficiency is enhanced through improved work processes and engaged employees, burnout is reduced and job satisfaction improves. One way to do this is to make sure that we are utilizing or that we're using our existing employees, especially our veterinary technicians, to full capacity and paying them accordingly. This means we have to familiarize ourselves with the duties veterinary technicians are legally allowed to perform in each state and identifying opportunities to use more of our veterinary technicians' considerable skills. This can help us free up veterinarians to be vets and practice medicine, resulting in the whole practice operating more efficiently. Inefficient staff utilization hurts our practices in other ways as well. It's well known that when a credentialed veterinary technicians aren't being efficiently utilized, that they're likely to feel less engaged. Thus, that cycle just continues. So compensation and rewards. Pay levels and satisfaction are only a modest predictor of an employee's decision to leave a company. Typically, there are two possible strategies. You can lead the market with respect to compensation and rewards, and/or you can link your rewards to retention. So for example, you can tie paid time off to seniority, you can offer retention bonuses, or link defined benefit plan payouts to years of service. So what would you pay, or what should you pay your employees? Honestly, this is a somewhat complex question to answer because there are so many variables. Different hospitals have different pay standards that are based on size, revenue, and geographic location. Knowing what to pay your employees and what benefits to offer can be really challenging, especially now when what you've been previously offering might be a non-starter. So here's how to determine what compensation and benefits should look like for your practice if you're going to compete in this tight hiring market. You can peruse the job sites to see what other practices in your area are offering. You can use data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you're an iVet 360 client, reach out to your HR manager or your finance and analytics manager, and they would be happy to give you their insights. Research inflation and cost of living for your location. We recommend creating pay ranges for each position. If your wage ranges are well researched, you should be competitive. You can choose to hire a new person at the higher end of that wage scale if they are indeed a spectacular candidate. But we don't recommend exceeding your set wage range. Another option would be to offer pay differentials for those harder to fill shifts, such as weekends and nights. Even when your wages are lower than competing businesses, studies show that companies with better benefits tend to hold on to their employees. Many employees would prefer an increase or upgrade in their benefits over a wage increase. Additionally, sharing with each employee what their total rewards statement shows helps them see that overall value of their compensation package. Oh, let's see, there we go. All right, so management and supervision, or management and leadership. Several studies have suggested that fair treatment by managers and supervisors is the most important determinant of retention. This would lead a company to focus on supervisory and management development and communication skill building. I'm sure you guys remember the old adage, employees don't quit jobs, they quit managers. Thinking of that, is everyone on your leadership team working towards the same priorities for the hospital? Rather than having 2 or 3 wheels spinning in different directions, can we focus our leadership team on the same short and long-term goals to make a better impact? One way to ensure leadership is on the same page is to set up routine and consistent meetings between all leaders within the hospital. Another thought is that we expect our teams to be trained to do their jobs. When we have a vet assistant or a receptionist, we train them so they're successful in their daily functions. What training is provided to our leads and our managers? This is one of the biggest areas of missed opportunity in veterinary practices. Managers have the ability to make or break a team. There are a lot of options out there for leadership and management training. AVMA even hosts an annual veterinary leadership conference. Transforming your culture begins with your leaders. These are the people who are driving the engagement journey and keeping a pulse on your team. Recent Gallup data found that less than 1/3 of employees are engaged in their work, which is perhaps not surprising considering that only 35% of managers themselves are engaged and that only 1 in 10 of them have the requisite skills to do their jobs. So when we think about the cost of our team, it makes sense to make an investment towards our leaders where they can help the team do the best that they can do. Employee engagement. Engaged employees are satisfied with their jobs, they enjoy their work, they believe that their job is important, they take pride in their company, and believe that their employer values their contributions. One study found that highly engaged employees were 5 times less likely to quit than employees who were not engaged. So what is employee engagement? It's not merely a happy employee or a satisfied employee. Those things can fluctuate fairly frequently. You can have an engaged employee who had a bad day or is unsatisfied with some aspect of their work. Employee engagement is the emotional commitment that the employee has to the company and its goals. They actually care about their work and their company. They don't just work for a paycheck, but they work on behalf of the company's goals. So how can we improve the level of engagement of our employees so that they stay with us longer? Ask your team, what can we do as a team to learn and grow? How about organizing workshops, attending conferences, sharing what you've learned, what you've read? Ask your team, what can we do as a team to laugh and play? There are happy hours, trivia questions at the beginning of meetings, dress-up days, work get-togethers. What can you guys do as a team to rest and rejuvenate? Have a focus on well-being or use pulse check questions to start each meeting. A big one for me is respecting when someone is taking time off. I know that doesn't happen all the time in veterinary hospitals, but it is so important. Make sure that everyone gets a lunch, yoga breaks, taking walks together, stretch breaks in meetings. And what are you guys doing as a team to celebrate and appreciate? Maybe start meetings by giving shout outs to each other, celebrate birthdays, milestones, have a weekly small victory prize, take time to acknowledge each other's efforts and contributions. And then what are you guys doing as a team to connect and reflect? Maybe have a team retreat or have frequent one-on-one check-ins. or ending the day with a debriefing, or even starting the following day with a huddle. All right, so we are about halfway there. Thank you so much for sticking with me. And remember to ask questions in the question box in the webinar toolbar there. All right, moving on. Oops, there we go. As important as it is to understand the reasons that drive employees to leave an organization, it's just as important to understand why valuable employees stay. Employees that stay are recognized. They have the opportunity to move around within the company, and they value their benefits package. Studies have suggested that employees become embedded in their jobs and their communities, and as they participate in their professional and community life, they develop a web of connections and relationships, both on and off the job. Leaving a job would require severing or rearranging these social and valuable networks. Thus, the more embedded employees are in a company, the more likely they are to stay. This should be no surprise. Employees want to be recognized. Companies can increase employee engagement by providing mentors, designing team-based projects, fostering teamwork, encouraging employee referrals, and providing clear communication about the company's values and culture. Financial incentives based on tenure or unique incentives that might not be common elsewhere also really help. In a recent SHRM survey, respondents agreed that recognition can help create a positive workplace experience, and 68% said their company's recognition program positively affects retention. Employees want to be recognized for their achievements. Providing timely, meaningful employee recognition can help you retain employees and helps with other common management challenges like recruitment and culture management. HR professionals are in strong agreement that employee recognition has positive effects on the employee experience and workplace culture. Many also say employee recognition positively affects business outcomes such as productivity, return on investment, sustainability, and financial results. So again, engaged employees are more productive. So what are the ways to make your recognition program great? Recognition that is tied to company values and performance will correlate to improved business results. Recognition that is tied to team performance improves peer relationships and teamwork. On-the-spot recognition is immediate and easy and free. Smaller awards don't require approval. Personal involvement and support from the owners and hospital leadership really help any recognition program to be successful. And the opportunity for any employee, not just management, for any employee to recognize others really promotes a culture within your hospital of recognition. Employees want the opportunity to move around within a company. A study of 32 million active LinkedIn users found that the likelihood of an employee staying with a company decreases as the years pass. 1 year after being hired, there's a 76% chance that the worker will still be with the company. By year 5, estimated retention is down to 38%. So that's 1/3 of new employees will quit after about 6 months, and a fourth will quit after about a year. So those are pretty high numbers. Employees who were promoted within 3 years of being hired have a 70% chance of staying on board. And those who made a lateral move have a 62% chance of staying. Those who were not promoted and who did not change jobs internally have only a 45% chance of remaining. Now, I know there are not a lot of mobility options in a veterinary practice, but some ideas are cross-training. Those who are cross-trained could earn a raise, or this idea of dual career ladders, basically additional responsibilities or jobs or projects or tasks. Many hospitals have official jobs that can be done in addition to an employee's main job, such as a veterinary technician who is also a vendor coordinator, or a vet assistant who's also the inventory manager, a client service rep who is also the social media manager, or a shelter liaison, a safety manager. So there are a lot of options for dual career ladders. Another thought is to promote instead of hiring. So if you're looking for another vet assistant, look no further than your own team of receptionists or kennel employees. There may be an interest to make an upward or even a lateral move. Employee benefits also play a role in retention. Benefits are one of the surest ways to improve employee satisfaction and thereby increase retention. But with so many types of benefits now available, how do employers with a limited budget choose which ones to offer? Benefits are an important part of a compensation package and can make up for a less competitive salary. Employees value things like insurance, retirement accounts, employee discounts, and memberships to gyms or health clubs, and they will often include it as part of their reasons for staying put. So this is what we recommend. For health coverage, we recommend finding the best healthcare insurance you can afford to offer, then pay no less than 50% of that employee premium. Offering several options helps team members who need less healthcare pay a little less each month. For PTO, a great place to start is at 1 week of PTO and 1 week of sick time, or 2 weeks combined for that first year. You can move up from there to reward and encourage tenure and longevity. The key reasons of focus on reducing turnover makes sense. We know that turnover is costly. Unwanted turnover affects the performance of your company as a whole. And we've all witnessed this. The availability of skilled employees continues to decrease. So how do we attract talent? The goal, of course, if you've been listening for the last 10 minutes, is to retain our great employees. But also we want to turn mediocre employees into great employees. And then if needed, hire to complement our current team. Many of the strategies for retention can be parlayed into strategies for recruitment. Essentially, recruitment and retention are two sides of the same coin. It's important to understand what employees want. To answer that question, we should first look at what makes them leave. Scan over any veterinary recruitment and retention survey done in the past 10 years, and you will find the most frequent responses have remained the same. What makes employees leave? Work-life balance, management, working hours, and salary. What makes an employee stay, or what makes an employee want to join your team? Better work-life balance, great management, reasonable work hours, and feeling valued through pay, benefits, recognition, and respect. If you recall, our strategies for retention are improved recruitment, improved onboarding practices, training, development, and utilization of our team members with those great skills, compensation and rewards, strong leadership, and employee engagement. So we're going to focus on recruiting techniques and compensation and rewards. The nuts and bolts around the recruiting process is it starts with the ad, and that process goes through onboarding and all the way through training. So let's walk through some of these steps in a little bit more detail. First off, you want to ensure that you have an ad that promotes you and your company. Today's employees are looking for more than just a paycheck when considering employment. You will want to highlight why your why your company is a great place to work. Marketing can help with enhancing your website by adding a robust careers page with snippets on why your practice is wonderful and what makes your practice a great place to work. Our marketing team can also help with creating content to post on social media that looks professional and enticing. Prior to recruiting, think about your current team and what skill gaps you may have. This will help you in defining what you're looking for in a new team member. Create some knockout criteria when reviewing resumes. Are you only looking for somebody with previous customer service experience? Do they need a high school diploma or higher? And when you're ready to reach out, begin with a phone screen. Make sure you ask all candidates the same questions and keep notes that you're going to hang on to as they move through that interview process. So the phone screen should be short, 10 minutes or less, and you should know during the phone screen if you want to move forward with an in-person interview. If you do, book that interview prior to ending that phone screen. If you don't want to move forward, thank the candidate for their time and let them know that they will be contacted if they are chosen to move forward in the interview process. Let the candidate know that the phone screen questions are a standard set of questions that you're asking of all of the candidates. And then make sure to ask them about their pay expectations and their availability. The next steps after a phone screen would be an in-person interview. You should prepare interview questions ahead of time and make sure you use a good amount of behavioral or situational interview questions. Just another quick update or plug is check out our recruiting toolkit. We have a bunch of interview questions in there, and we go into a lot more detail on what behavioral interview questions are. So again, you should ask all candidates the same set of questions. This is the best way to compare apples to apples. And then think about those skills or traits that you need in a new employee and ask questions to determine if that candidate has those skills or traits. After the in-person interview, I recommend doing an observational interview where the candidate can meet the team and interact with everyone. I like to kill two birds with one stone and will typically schedule this for the same day as their interview. If the candidate is promising on the phone screen, I schedule the in-person interview and I let them know that it will typically last between 1 and 2 hours. I plan for the in-person interview for the first hour, and if I like them, I ask them to stay for that second hour and have them meet the team. This way, the candidate has already planned to be at the clinic for a 2-hour period. I also really love observational interviews because the team gets to meet the candidates and it helps the team feel more engaged and involved in that process. Next steps, if I get positive feedback from the team and I feel that they've passed their interviews, I will offer them a job. If they accept, then this is where we're going to discuss a background check contingency and a reference check contingency, and we also want to nail down their start date. During that interview, be prepared to make a quick but confident decision. If it's somebody great and all arrows are pointing to hire that person, don't let them walk out the door without a job offer. Right now, with the way our job market is, they probably have another job interview lined up the next day. So we want to make sure that we are moving quickly on candidates. So let's talk about compensation. When setting the compensation rate for a new hire, here's what you need to consider. What would this person earn at a competing hospital? What am I paying other people in this role? And do the candidate's qualifications justify a higher wage? So maybe, for example, do they have a college degree? Do they speak a second language if that's important in your location? Here are some ways hospitals can learn about what other hospitals pay. Ask around at local practice manager group meetings or practice owner groups. Simply asking won't hurt anything, and offering to share your average wages can encourage a response. Don't push too hard though, because we don't want to make an enemy out of our peers. And most importantly, keep in mind, wage fixing is illegal. You can utilize PayScale, Glassdoor, or other job posting sites. At these sites, workers can log on and report their location and wages. Be advised, however, that because this information is self-reported and unmonitored, there can be a wide variance in the accuracy of the information. Also, sometimes some of those job posting sites take it upon themselves to estimate what they think that job pays. And so that information is not actually coming from the practice itself, but rather from like Indeed or another job posting site. And then I really like ONET Online. This is an excellent place to get accurate wage information because the pay rates reflected on the site are reported to the government when someone applies for unemployment. This information is then verified with the employer, and the search function allows you to narrow the results by city so you can see what a veterinary technician's average wage is in your area. All right, a little bit more on compensation. Hopefully all of you know that it is illegal to forbid your team from discussing wages. As a result, everyone on your team knows what everyone else is making, or you should assume that they do. If you hire someone lower than the typical wage for that position, the team member is going to feel devalued and could even use it as a reason to sue for wage discrimination. If you hire someone higher than the typical wage, it will cause wage compression and possibly discontent among your current team. So always consider what others in the role are currently making. You can hire someone for slightly less than others to account for maybe the training that they're going to go through. You can also adjust if the rest of the team has been in the hospital for a very long time, and maybe they haven't received or they have received wage increases over the years. But the best thing to do, and our recommendation, is to create wage ranges for each position in the practice and ensure that the new hires are always offered wages within that range. We rarely recommend hiring a new team member at a higher rate than your tenured employees. Doing so can set the stage for bitterness and discontent within your team. Worse, suppose you hire a male candidate at a higher rate than a tenured female employee. In that case, you're walking right into a potential discrimination lawsuit. However, especially with the way our job market is currently, you may need to hire a new member at a higher rate if for example, you've been historically lagging the competition in this area, right? And you don't want to miss out on a great candidate so you might have to. Ideally, you would also evaluate the current wages of your team and right-size their compensation. If you do choose to hire someone and pay them a higher rate than what the others on your team are making, we recommend increasing everyone else's wages so that at least they match the new person's wage. Yes, this can be an expensive investment, but ultimately worth it if you're faced with losing a stellar candidate or eroding your team's morale. Veterinary benefit plans often lag behind those of other employers that steal our team members with the promise of better compensation that goes beyond just the paycheck. While it's true that more and better benefits will get employees to stick around even when times are tough, those benefits don't need to break the bank. So let's take a look at the benefit options and how you can choose benefits that will be of the highest value to your team. The two sacred, non-negotiable, must-have benefits that we recommend every practice offer is healthcare insurance and paid time off. Hospitals that don't offer these or offer a substandard version of these will struggle to attract team members. This is especially true now when we are experiencing the most extreme employee shortage in recent memory. Paid time off is another crucial benefit that must be offered to attract and retain the best possible candidates. Most companies provide a minimum of 21 days of vacation, holiday time, vacation, holidays, and sick time. The vet field averages 13 days of vacation and holidays with little or no sick time. This results in sick and tired teams that make everyone else sick and miserable. So, structure your benefits package on a foundation of healthcare and PTO. In summation, workers have many ways of finding jobs, and they often have many employers competing for them. But you can still attract and retain the top talent by building and promoting a company where employees want to work and where they enjoy doing so. So I've included here a couple of resources that I find valuable. The first one, I talked a little bit about tech utilization. So the AVMA has a wonderful website that discusses some best practices on utilizing our certified veterinary technicians to their fullest. So please check that out. AVMA also puts on an annual leadership development conference, which I think is a fantastic way to improve those leadership skills of your leads, of your supervisors, and of your managers. Honestly, even practice owners, we can all use continual development in that area. And then I know I've mentioned this several times, but iVet360 has a wonderful recruiting toolkit, so please check that out. And then my favorite spot for looking at wage data is through ONET online and that website there. And that is where the Bureau of Labor Statistics and those unemployment data comes from for figuring out wages. All right, so what's next? We do have a couple of other webinars lined up for you in the following Thursdays. So next Thursday, February 17th at noon Pacific, we have our analytics manager who will be going over growing your practice. He'll be talking about understanding wage changes, gross margin defenses, and retention, driving efficiency. And then the Thursday after that, on Thursday, February 24th, we have our marketing manager discussing marketing your practice to clients and potential staff, how to maximize new client growth efforts, leveraging retention to increase revenue and transaction value, and then marketing to new potential hires. So I hope you will join iVet360 for those webinars. And I thank you again for your time today and taking time, obviously, out of your very, very busy day. Hopefully you found this information useful. Thank you.